Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I want to talk about obviously the trailer that dropped for the show Titans, as well as this whole DC Universe thing. Also, if you haven't seen the trailer, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. Obviously, first of all, we'll talk about Titans. How I personally felt about the trailer. It's like, oh wow, it's pretty neat. It seems pretty cool and pretty interesting. Because obviously, I talked about this recently in a video. It was kind of like, yeah, I've been following this for a while. Well, I was following it a while back when it was supposed to be coming out on TNT. I mean, it kind of makes sense why they dropped the whole teen aspect to it, and they're just Titans. It's like, well, yeah, because they're not teenager. At least most of the cast isn't. You know, when this first popped up, I also read a little bit before the trailer ended up coming out. I'd already read that it was going to be darker, and the trailer kind of proves it, which is kind of interesting. It's got like this darker aesthetic. Robin's kind of going all badass, which is interesting. And it's just like, where's Batman? And then Robin's like, fuck Batman. That's kind of the biggest thing I feel like most people have noticed. Like, oh yeah, Robin just dropped the F-bomb. Which is so interesting because I feel like, for one, you're seeing Robin as an adult. I feel like you don't typically see that as him as an adult until he turns into Nightwing. Because I think we're in that show seems like it's taking place in that sweet spot between he left Batman's side as his sidekick. And he's obviously, this is the Teen Titan, well, the Titans age, and then like, you know, probably borderlining on him becoming Nightwing. Because it almost feels like at this point, just with what it looks like, I'm like, shouldn't you kind of be Nightwing already with just how this is? But I don't know. Because like, once again, my experience with the Titans is only like the Teen Titans cartoon when I was younger. Like, that was kind of my first introduction to them. So that's kind of more of my speed, and that was like how I got to really know them. Because it's actually interesting, because in that, the reason why he became Nightwing in that continuity was because Starfire left, and like obviously she got stuck in time. That whole, like, she ended up time traveling what was it, like 10 years into the future, and then, like, you know, the Teen Titans kind of fell apart without her. So I'm curious to see what is the reason why him and Batman have such a bad relationship. I don't know what, like, in the comic books, why he ever went off on his own to become Nightwing. Like, if there's like one specific reason, maybe there's different, you know, I mean, Robin's existed for a long time. I keep saying all this, I'm forgetting to talk about the fact is we obviously know, because of the whole circus thing, that this is obviously Dick Grayson Robin. You know, you have to specify, with there being so many Robins, you have to be like, oh, which one is it? It's like, right, it has to be Dick Grayson. Hence, isn't he the only one that's ever taken up the mantle of Nightwing? Has anyone else taken that mantle? I feel like I remember reading something somewhere that other people have. I don't know what the other Robins have done. Like, obviously, I know Jason Todd's, well, I know parts of his future, because there's other stuff I heard people talk about related to him. Like, oh, that, nevertheless, Tim Drake and Damian Wayne, I don't really know what they've done beyond being Robin. Like, Damian Wayne, I feel like all he's done is be Robin, but, you know, like I said, I don't know comic books, so that could be completely wrong. But maybe, like, the point I was trying to make is maybe going back to it, like, maybe he just got tired of being a sidekick, and or maybe he just got tired of the way Batman is running things. I think it's such an interesting choice. They're making it so that Raven is younger, because like I said, my experience is that they're the Teen Titans, so they're all teenagers. And most times I feel like outside of Teen Titans, like, Raven's always been depicted as an adult. Like I said, I don't know comic books, but the few times I've ever seen her, like, in stuff, it's like, oh yeah, this is her as an adult. So, but it's interesting because Robin's kind of got like this protective angle to her, which, once again, because it's the only Teen Titans I can pull from is like the cartoon, because there's that whole Trigon arc, which is like hands down one of my favorite arcs in the Teen Titans cartoon. That was kind of a big thing between Robin and Raven, because he was kind of like, he helped her throughout a lot of that, and I think their bond grew from that. And so it just seems like, not saying they're taking from that, but to me, I just kind of like, it's like, oh man, like a full series kind of built around that, because it's like, this is young Raven not being able to control that side of herself. And it almost seems, it doesn't seem like it's just kind of like, oh man, it's got like this darker, like, oh, superhero aesthetic. It almost kind of like, at least when it comes to the Raven stuff, it almost seems like horror-esque, you know, just kind of like her eyes going black and her completely losing control of her abilities. It's kind of, oh, like I said, got this scary feel to it. We got a little taste of Starfire and Beast Boy. There's another member, I remember reading this a while back about who would pop up in the show. Like I said, I think this was back when it was still going to possibly be on TNT. I don't even remember who the next person is. You get glimpses of them in the trailer. And that's another thing too, they're not even like together in most of the trailer. It's like they're kind of separate, except for Robin and Raven. Like, the rest of the team is like off on their own. So obviously it's probably stuff pulled from like maybe the first or 1 or 2 episodes before they actually come together. I'm curious to see what the villain's all about, because it seemed like a bunch of street thugs. I actually don't even know what city the Teen Titans take place in, you know? I mean, the way you know, certain continuities make it seem like all the major like superhero cities like Metropolis and Gotham are kind of like, you know, obviously people make the joke about Dark Knight, how Dark Knight Rising kind of made it just go like, oh yeah, literally Metropolis is like across the bridge from Gotham. You know, so aesthetically we don't know like how far apart or how close the cities are, so I don't know if that like maybe part of it's taking place in Gotham, maybe all of it is, or is it a different city? I don't ever remember them specifying what city Teen Titans took place in even back then. I don't know. It's kind of interesting once again because of the whole experience with Teen Titans. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, it's kind of weird not seeing Cyborg there, but for one it makes sense. Well, for one, it's just because there's a whole thing about, well, Cyborg's kind of, you know, a mainline Justice Leaguer, not just, you know, because of the whole Justice League movie now, but even before now. Like, he's one of the people that transitioned over to, like, Justice League. And I think it's also because when you actually think about it, it's like, well, doing Cyborg for a TV show would be hard because just aesthetically, that'd probably be a little pricey to do a character like that all the time. Because the way he looks, there's no like changing that. I mean, I guess you could always do the Smallville route where it's like you make him look cybernetic on the inside but not the outside. But I guess at this point in time, it's like, no, if you're going to show that character, you have to make him kind of go all out. So, and speaking of all of that, does kind of make you wonder, like, it does seem like this is its own continuity. Obviously, this isn't the Arrowverse, this isn't the DCEU, but it might kind of pull from those universes type of thing, which is so interesting. I find it so fascinating because we have all these different universes on the DC side of things. It doesn't really like work like that on the Marvel front, because the Marvel, like everything Marvel can in the MCU takes place in the MCU, makes references to it, but it's like in this continuity, it's like obviously there's like 3 different universes. Which once again, it's the multiverse, so you can do stuff like that. So I'm sure they're not going to be like, oh, this takes place in this multiverse. You know, it's like, oh, this takes place in the same multiverse as the Arrowverse, so it's like, no, that's not going to happen. Like I said, I'm very excited to see what it's all about, like I said, especially it being on a darker angle. And the fact is that Robin has to kind of be like this protector, almost mentor character. It's going to be, I think, an interesting aesthetic, probably because, like I said, because this is him. He's been a sidekick for so long, and now, you know, it seems like he's kind of done this, like, we don't know how long he's been doing the Robin thing by himself, but now it's like, now he has to look after someone, and maybe that's going to make him change his mind about the whole Batman situation. At least how it seems like it focused on Raven kind of make you go, will they probably push the whole Trigon storyline for at least a bit of this? At least maybe when it comes to Raven, it might not be the overarching thing, but at least maybe in Raven's part, it might be the whole overarching thing. So I'm very excited to see what it's all about. And obviously, if you haven't heard about this whole DC Universe situation, basically it's kind of DC's, you know, streaming service, kind of like a Hulu or Netflix thing. Basically, it's giving you access to their TV shows as well as their comic books. Like, that was something that was kind of brought up too, like how much of their comic book history you're going to get. Is it more just newer stuff, or you're going to get back catalog stuff, like super far back catalog? I don't know. Like, I haven't read too much into it at this point in time. It's very interesting. It does make you wonder. I mean, eventually it's kind of like what Disney's doing with the whole Marvel thing of like, eventually they want to take all their Marvel stuff and put it on their own streaming service. So I'm curious to see, like, what does that mean going forward for a lot of stuff, like Arrowverse stuff in particular. Like, will that eventually be stuff that they solely go like, yeah, we'll kind of take that and put it up here, or will it just stay where it is right now? I kind of feel like it'll probably stay where it is right now, because it's like, well, this is its home for now, so it's just like, we'll do that. But like DC stuff going forward probably most likely take place mainly on the DC universe. So my question to you guys is, how do you feel about the trailers? Like, what are your thoughts about this whole, you know, darker feel? Because I know that's a big complaint for a lot of people when it comes to the movies, of like, oh, the movies are too, you know, trying to be too dark and there's no levity in it. Like, do you feel like that should apply to the Teen Titans as well? Because even, you know, going back and making a comparison to the cartoon, it's like the cartoon had its levity moments as well, while also dealing with its drama moments. That's kind of like, but there's drama moments were some of the strongest parts of Teen Titans. So I'm curious to see they kind of translate that. And once again, this is because I've never read the comic books. Once again, my experience is only the cartoon. So, because in my personal opinion, it almost feels like it's probably going to be even darker than Arrow. It seems like it kind of might be on the same level as like something maybe like Constantine and Arrow kind of put together, you know, kind of an aesthetic similar to that. At least that's how I'm feeling about it. Like I said, just let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.